Dominion Energy is all about helping its customers, whether it's bill assistance through its Energy Share program, extended payment plans, or budget billing. Dominion Energy will work with you. They led the way during COVID-19 and will always continue partnering with their customers in good times and hard times. Learn more at dominionenergy.com. That's dominionenergy.com, where actions speak louder.
Feel the hot new reels and cool cash at Rosie's Gaming Emporium. Are you ready for added excitement, more ways to win, and bigger payouts? Then stop into your favorite Rosie's and check out our all-new machines where jackpot pools start at $100,000. Don't miss the next level of jackpots, new ways to win, and big-time payouts. Only at Rosie's Gaming Emporium.
Stop by and win today, or click rosiesgaming.com for more info. rosiesgaming.com. Bob's Gun Shop in Norfolk is one of the largest Smith & Wesson dealers in Virginia and the Commonwealth's only Sig Sauer elite dealer. Bob's Gun Shop features a state-of-the-art indoor shooting range with convenient concealed carry classes on weeknights or Saturdays for only $49. Only Bob's Gun Shop has 3 floors of firearms and accessories, plus all sizes of safes, from single-hand gun to large vaults. And Bob's Gun Shop is a proud defender of the Second Amendment. 746 Granby Street in Norfolk, or click bobsnorfolk.com. That's bobsnorfolk.com.
Nick Freitas champions opportunity for all Virginians. In the General Assembly, Nick fought for better access to quality, affordable health care, lower taxes so you keep more of your paycheck, and to remove red tape to make it easier for jobs and businesses to recover. Vote Nick Freitas for U.S. Congress on Tuesday, November 3rd. Americans for Prosperity Action is responsible for the content of this advertising, paid for by Americans for Prosperity Action and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.afpaction.com.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network and the John Fredericks Radio app, and thanks for being with us today. I am your Godzilla of the truth in America, and we're trucking it every day, 20 days before the election here in America. You got to get with it, get on it. We need poll watchers. If you're in Virginia and you want to be a poll watcher and you don't want the Democrats to steal the election, which you're going to try to do once again with fake and phony stuff, here's what you do. Email riley.mahoney@gop.com. That's our deputy director of the Trump campaign in Virginia. Riley, RILEY.Mahoney, just like it sounds, riley.mahoney@gmail.com, and you're good to go. And she'll get right back to you. Great lady, and she'll get right back to you. You get paid for it. You get trained. She'll do everything. She'll set you up in an area that you're comfortable with near your home. We need poll watchers. Riley.Mahoney@GOP. GOP, not Gmail. GOP.com, and you're good to go. On the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. InsideArabia.com, my favorite website for news on the Middle East, North Africa, and the Gulf. Now, you got a lot of choices out there. There's a lot of news sites. We have one, the Virginia Star. Go to thevirginiastar.com. That's cool. But when I want my news, when I want to know what's going on in the Middle East, and I want insight into the Gulf and North Africa, there's only one site I go to. It's the first and the only one, and that's Inside Arabia. Go to InsideArabia.com. They're based in Washington, D.C. They have probably the best writers in the world writing for this on international affairs that cover the area. They're very insightful, very in-depth, and there's a lot of fake news out there. A lot of sites run by, UAE and things like that, which is government controlled, and others. The one site that I go to every day, it's the first thing I do when I get up, I go to InsideArabia.com, because the stories are so insightful and in-depth, and I learn so much. And they really give me the best analysis of the situation. And it's an area that, as you know, we cover on our show and have done it since I've been in the air for a decade, because my belief is, as the Middle East goes everything else. So you want to know what's going on. InsideArabia.com. They're based in D.C. Great people, started it, and they do a super job. And their editors on it, Haneen, is just the best. InsideArabia.com. Go to InsideArabia.com. Bookmark it, you're good to go. And from InsideArabia.com, senior correspondent joining us now, Alessandro Bruno, and he's live in Toronto. Alessandro, great to have you with us, man.
Thank you, John.
So let's get to the story that you had up the other day, and I want to bring everybody's attention to it. The strategic implications of Bahrain and UAE's accords with Israel. And also, we're going to talk about a little bit about how that's having no impact on the U.S. election whatsoever. Like, it's never even talked about, which is kind of amazing to me. I think the president would be highlighting this. He hardly mentions it. Nobody mentions it in the news media in the United States. But according to your piece, you said, according to the Abraham Accords aimed at normalizing Israel's diplomatic relations with the UAE and Bahrain and potentially other Gulf states, which is the goal here, they've achieved little in the way of peace. You say rather they allow for the war against Palestine nationalism to be pursued through other means and serve as a Trojan horse to seduce other Arab states with the promise of strategic and economic advantages. Can you elaborate on that, Alessandro? This is a pretty in-depth analysis that you think is just going to backfire or just going to harm the Palestinians.
Well, first of all, I think going back to what you said about the president, I think this is a major, the accords are a huge diplomatic achievement for the president and for his goals and for the people that he's representing. So I am surprised that he's not talking more about it, because this is what the JCPOA was to Obama. This is to Trump. It's a big deal. And, the reason it's a big deal is because I call it a Trojan horse, but it has broken the taboo of the Palestinian issue. Now, for decades, no Arab state would even dare think of making a diplomatic overture to Israel until the premise was until there is a Palestinian state. But now, I think, particularly since the oil prices have gone down and they don't seem to be recovering, they needed to change strategy entirely and completely change their nature. And this accord has 2 states have joined in. But it doesn't surprise me that it's the UAE, which is a kind of. I'm writing another article. I'm comparing the UAE to the Venetian Republic of the Middle Ages, which was a small republic, but extremely powerful because it was the biggest trading center of its time.
Right.
So they invented banks in Venice in that time. So I think the UAE is going to focus not so much on oil anymore. They're already many Gulf states are going back away from oil, and to become a major trade center. And to do that, they need to have relations with everybody in the region. So that was they started it. Bahrain second. There will be others eventually. And in an article that's coming up soon, you'll see. I suggest even Iraq could soon join that list, or at least there are the conditions for states that you'd never think of joining. Even Lebanon, there have been rumors of some kind of peace, because without oil, the Gulf states they cannot finance groups, and they cannot support social systems in Palestinian territories and other areas at risk. So they need to change strategy entirely. It's become a survival issue now.
So, where does this leave the Saudis, Alessandro?
Well, if the UAE, which is closely allied to the Saudis, made this deal, the Saudis are behind it, meaning they are in agreement with it. The problem is that Saudi Arabia is still the guardian of Mecca and Medina, the centers of Islamic faith. So they can't be. It's too early for them to join the deal, at least formally, with the ceremony. Informally, I'm sure they're in it. There have been contacts, as we know, more contact, in fact, between the Saudis and the Israelis with the others. But they cannot be seen to show. They cannot show it yet. Also, Saudi Arabia has a much larger population than the UAE, and contrary to popular belief, there is poverty in Saudi Arabia. They do have a local poor scene, which could be susceptible to messages from fundamentalists and cause problems for the monarchy. So in order to keep things quiet and stable, they will not be the next one to join, even though they will give their blessing to any future deals within that sphere, in the, let's call it the Sunni sphere. Also, there's Turkey. Turkey is quickly replacing Saudi Arabia as the Muslim powerhouse, both ideologically and in finance terms. They're sponsoring various projects, and they're advancing their cause. I mean, let's not forget they symbolically Erdogan changed the Hagia Sophia, which was originally a cathedral built in 500 AD, 517,
Right.
then turned to a mosque, and then by converted to a museum by the secular president Atatürk in 1932, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's back into a mosque, even though it's still open to tourists. That was a very symbolic and important move, posing Turkey as the new champion of Muslim rights and aspirations. Saudi Arabia cannot afford to. It's still vying for that role.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're with Alessandro Bruno, senior correspondent with Inside Arabia. Go to InsideArabia.com and bookmark that. Alessandro live in Toronto, Canada right now. His latest story, the strategic implications of Bahrain and the UAE's accords with Israel. So, two questions, Alessandro. Number one is, you're right about Saudi Arabia, even though they're not an active participant, they're an inactive participant, because we all know that Bahrain can't sneeze without getting MBS's approval. So obviously they gave them the nod before they went forward with this. Secondly, where does Egypt play out in all this? Egypt part of one of the blockade Gulf states and in the siege on Qatar, one of four, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Egypt. Where does Egypt fall into this whole thing now?
Well, Egypt,
especially as it relates to what you said about Erdogan and Turkey.
Well, actually, Egypt is one of the supporters of this move, because Egypt was the first state to make peace with Israel. The difference between Egypt and Bahrain and the UAE is that Egypt actually was at war with Israel. Two major wars in 1967 and 73, not to mention the ones in 48 and 56 and so on. But so in 1979, under President Carter, the Camp David Accords, Egypt and Israel made a formal peace. It's different than what this is, because this is not a peace deal, because they were never at war officially, UAE and Israel. It's a diplomatic recognition. The effects are the same, but formally they're different. So Egypt, in some ways, has gained, will have strengthened that alliance. It's under less threat than it ever was, because the Egyptians were always under previous administrations, Mubarak and Sadat, were still bound to the Palestinian cause. But under Sisi, this has eroded. In fact, just a few weeks ago, the Egyptian Navy shot and I believe killed one or two Palestinian fishermen off of Gaza. So they are much less confined to the Palestinian cause, within the Palestinian cause, as they were before. And now they've gained formally some very powerful and rich allies. and Egypt needs powerful and rich allies in the Gulf. It's not in a position to take risks, diplomatic risks, because it gets a lot of U.S. aid because of the peace with Israel, over $3 billion a year, I think that was, and it's an important source of revenue for a country which is one of the most populous in Africa, and one of the most densely populated as well. So it's a win for Egypt, I think.
Okay, so I agree with that, and of course, economically they're suffering now because of COVID, and their tourism is down, which is a big part of their
major problem.
Yeah, that's so they're struggling with that. In your piece, Alessandro, you said that Benjamin Netanyahu emerges as the biggest winner. Why?
Because he's had some personal legal problems in Israel. I mean, there are many who want him down in Israel itself, from both right and left, and not over foreign policy or even government policy, but more personal matters, taxes and other dealings. And also he's sharing power with Gantz. So he scored this diplomatic deal. And it's a very important point going in any eventual election. And he's delivered, he's given Israel two major, very rich and important allies across the Gulf. They are already sharing flights and tourism, and who knows what else will come of this. But also, as you will see perhaps in the next piece I write, this deal opens a breach. As I mentioned earlier, it's broken that Palestinian taboo. So more states will come in. He has achieved in a few weeks of diplomacy, in a few months, something that has taken years in attempts before without firing a shot. And also, he also wins, I think, that was the point I was trying to make the most. He wins on a little bit on the left of Israel as well, because many on the left reject the outright annexation of the Palestinian territories. Netanyahu, by agreeing to this deal, one of the agreements is that they have to delay or avoid annexation of the West Bank entirely. So it just keeps the status quo. In effect, they have the settlements. On paper, there is still a separate West Bank. So it keeps the status quo without risking, because annexing the territories would be a huge undertaking from many points of view. So that means he doesn't have to take that risk without making it seem as if it's a compromise. Sorry, we can't do that because we're gaining this diplomatic deal here, which is much more important. So he can transfer the responsibility to that deal, carrot and stick sort of thing. And I think politically this is a major chess move on his behalf.
I think you are so right here, Alessandro. I got to tell you, that's why I love reading your pieces. On the surface, everybody said that President Trump was the biggest winner, but really it's Netanyahu who's the big winner. The president, as we said at the beginning, he's getting nothing from this politically. I mean, zero. It's amazing to me when you look at the remarkable progress he's had in the first flight that came over and everything else from Israel to UAE, and he's getting nothing. And but Netanyahu has played this. I mean, he is really the master politician. How this guy continues to survive, term after term, and still has so much authority and power. Now he's played this beautifully, and there's no two-state solution, right? I mean, that's not even in the dialogue now, right? It's just gone.
That's the thing. The accords have virtually eliminated this possibility, I think. there might one day be a one-state solution. Many Israelis don't want it because that would mean equating, but that many Palestinians, including those of the most left, or the most nationalist Palestinians, have also given up on the two-state solution. So this puts it in much bigger question than ever before. I mean, it's opened now the idea of Israel being allied to many of its neighbors. That taboo has broken. It's happening, and it could happen with the least states that you would never expect. Israel's biggest enemy in the Middle East right now is what used to be its biggest ally, Turkey, in many ways. And Turkey has relations with Israel. So
why would they be there? Why would Turkey,
Alessandro,
why would Turkey be their biggest threat? I mean, I get what you're saying about Erdogan and trying to get influence in there with the Palestinians, but they've been allies for a very long time.
Well,
and I mean, Turkey recognizes, their military power. They recognize the long-standing relationship. So why would Turkey be their number one source of concern?
Well, it's their number one ideological enemy, because who are Erdogan's allies in the Palestinian territories? Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood. So it's Turkey is closely connected to Hamas, which is the much more than in the West Bank. Hamas is what's putting up some of the biggest resistance still these days in Gaza. And Erdogan has come out against this agreement, even though they've had diplomatic relations with Israel for years. But Erdogan plays many sides at once. As a reminder, just in the very weeks before the so-called Arab Spring erupted in Syria in 2011, Erdogan had friendly relations with President Assad in Syria. And actually, here's something that could come back into the fore. Few people remember or know that in 2010, Israel and Syria were holding secret talks in Turkey to recognize each other. And that was ended by the Arab Spring. But
really?
Yes, under the time the Prime Minister was C.P. Livni, who I think still has a position in cabinet, or certainly did in the recent Israeli government. But she was, and Prime Minister Olmert before her, they started to hold. They didn't meet directly, but there were high-level delegations in Istanbul and Ankara discussing better relations. And I mean, there are rumors that Lebanon, because Lebanon is divided in many pieces, there is a considerable amount of pressure from some groups in Lebanon to recognize Israel as well. So
Alessandro, fascinating discussion as always. Love having you on. Great piece. And
thank you.
biggest thing I got out of this: Netanyahu emerges as the big winner. I never really thought of it in those terms, but you're right. The president getting no traction out of this, just amazing to me. No political traction, zero. And but Netanyahu once again maneuvers his way around. I mean, he got him to annex the Golan Heights. He got him to give him the other territory he needs. He got him to move the embassy. And Trump right now at risk of losing, getting nothing out of it. And Netanyahu once again emerges as the hero. The guy's unbelievable.
He was prime minister in '96.
It's unbelievable. I mean, there's got to be a book written on this guy. He's got to be the master politician of all time. But I think here's the other thing I agree with. He's met his match in Erdogan, because this guy also, like you said, he plays, what do they call it, Alessandro? Multi-dimensional chess at the same time. where you see it in the streets of Toronto when you got guys they're playing 5 games of chess simultaneously for money, and they always win. That's kind of where he is. And if you looked at the way Erdogan and his PR department in Turkey handled the Khashoggi death, and the way they leaked that out on almost a daily basis, and just completely manipulated the media. I mean, that was masterful the way they did that. A shame what happened to the journalist there, but that guy, Erdogan and Netanyahu, these have got to be the 2 best politicians of our time right now, no question. Great piece, very insightful. Alessandro, thank you. Thank you for being with us from Toronto. Thank you so much. John Fredericks Radio Network. Go to InsideArabia.com, InsideArabia.com. Charlie Wiley coming up. Charlie Wiley is next, and we got to give him a call. Wake him up in L.A. We'll be right back.
Conservative host in America like me, this election is about one thing: turnout. The left has their get out the vote machine now. We need ours. That's why the single most important thing you can do to save our country is go to keepamericaamerica.com. That's keepamericaamerica.com and become a volunteer in the biggest get out the vote effort in history. You'll be given tasks that can make a difference in November. Do a little, do a lot, but please do your part. Go to keepamericaamerica.com now. That's keepamericaamerica.com.
Attention, Virginia Patriots. Do you want to help save America this November? Join our team. American Majority Action is a national conservative organization that mobilizes citizens to get involved in the political process. We are looking for patriots to join our paid team of door-to-door and phone canvassers now through November 3rd. Save Virginia, save America. It's now or never. Email us at winvirginia2020@gmail.com or text to 571-439-2327.
My fellow Americans, John Fredericks here. Across our nation, people are working day and night to destroy our Second Amendment. We can no longer sit idle. What will we pass down to our children? Our Second Amendment is the only thing that guarantees our freedoms. Once our gun rights are gone, the rest follows. History dictates. It's up to us whether our children grow up in a free country or a foreign country. Here at Peacekeepers Apparel, we watch all 50 states and donate to nonprofit organizations such as the Virginia Citizens Defense League that have teams of pro-Second Amendment lawyers that challenge these infringements. Our Bill of Rights affirms that our rights are God-given and cannot be dismantled. Our right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, period. We must not be divided as gun owners. We must stand as one body. Join the fight and become a peacekeeper at peacekeepersapparel.com. Check out our awesome products and know that a portion of each sale goes towards combating tyranny. That's peacekeepersapparel.com, P-I-E-C-E.
October 14th, 1947.
The really big moment. Through the sound barrier. The first time ever in level flight.
Air Force Captain Chuck Yeager becomes the first person to fly faster than sound. Yeager breaks the sound barrier as he tests a rocket-powered research plane over California. 1066. In Britain, invading Norman forces under William the Conqueror defeat the Anglo-Saxons at the Battle of Hastings. 1964. Martin Luther King Jr. wins the Nobel Peace Prize for his nonviolent campaign for civil rights. King accepts the award months later during a ceremony in Norway's capital, Oslo.
We are ready to suffer when necessary and even risk our lives in order to become witnesses to truth as we see it.
1912. In Milwaukee, Theodore Roosevelt, campaigning for a return to the White House, is shot in the chest. Despite the wound, the former president heads to a hospital only after he gives a scheduled speech. And 1977.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Bing Crosby, one of the most popular singers of the 20th century, dies near Madrid, Spain. Today in history, October 14th, Carlotta Bradley, The Associated Press.
I'm Steve Bannon, host of War Room Pandemic. I've been way ahead of the world curve on the coronavirus global pandemic. We began following this in December, and we launched War Room Pandemic in January. At the time, I said, you may not care about this virus, but the virus cares about you. The health and economic impact of this pandemic will be catastrophic. This handling of this crisis will define President Trump's place in history and the future direction of the country. So listen every day for the facts on this. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, plus Saturdays, 10 a.m. to noon on the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Feel the hot new reels and cool cash at Rosie's Gaming Emporium. Are you ready for added excitement, more ways to win, and bigger payouts? Then stop into your favorite Rosie's and check out our all-new machines where jackpot pools start at $100,000. Don't miss the next level of jackpots, new ways to win, and big-time payouts. Only at Rosie's Gaming Emporium.
Stop by and win today or click rosiesgaming.com for more info. rosiesgaming.com.
John Fredericks Radio Network and the John Fredericks Radio app. Got a couple of montage of songs there, Kara. That was pretty interesting. Thank you for entertaining us with that, and especially the first one there. I wasn't quite sure where we were going with that, and I see you pull the plug momentarily. Probably would put that one in the scrap delete box, but good try though. We appreciate your great music. Sometimes things don't always work out the way you want them to. Oh, my goodness. 888-4... She says, I'm deleting that ASAP. So delete the first one. But, hey, when all else fails, says Paul in Mechanicsville, Paul says when all else fails and things are looking bleak, just come in with Chubby Checkers and you're good to go from 1957. Very good recovery, Care, on that one. Oh God, I got to stop laughing. I can't even go on the air after that. I've laughed so hard. This Jim in Richmond says, good call on pulling the plug on that one. I don't know where you got that, but yeah, I would probably delete that off your song file. Probably not the one you want to play. This is a family show. If you don't know it. 888-480-JOHN, 888-480-5646 if you want to weigh in. Let's get... Derek put that song... Oh, blame Derek now! See, Derek put that song in and I forgot what it was all about. Okay, so now you're going to blame Derek. Okay, let's throw Derek under the bus. He's not here to defend himself. Throw Big DC, right? Just throw him right under the bus, Kara. That's so unlike you. I mean, and then you... backed over him again. He threw him under the bus, ran over him, then backed over him. Blame it on Derek. He put that song in. Yeah, but he didn't play it, Kara. You're the one that played it. Oh, my goodness. All right, got to stop laughing. It was pretty funny. Chubby Checkers bailed you out. Where'd you get that Chubby Checkers song from 1957? And we do probably need some. Now, when Derek was there, he was saying that you need to upgrade and snazz up your song list a little bit. He was saying that. Not that he was criticizing our songs, but he had a new playlist. He said we need a little more upbeat, a little more contemporary. So, but he did, I guess he put that one in the playlist. But yes, I did ask him to. She texts me, she says, what? He said, you asked him to put more. I did, but I didn't ask him to put in songs that are not family friendly. That's kind of like that. Kara says he had all types of a mess in here. Well, that's what happens when you go on vacation and somebody else takes over for you. They mess up your stuff. So it's part of life, It's like when you come in on Monday and all those weekenders come in and, things don't work and the buttons are all wrong and the mics are too high or too hot or not on at all or whatever it is they do, or the Comrex isn't pushed on. The weekend shows come in, and that's what football comes in. That's what happens. So I get it. They don't. You don't want anybody messing with your stuff. Okay, Kira says he had all types of a mess in here. Tell Derek, don't touch my songs ever again. Okay, I'll let him know that ASAP. John Fredericks Radio Network, 888-480-JOHN, 888-480-5646. Christine says, leave Kara's playlist alone. Don't touch it ever. No one ever touch it. Not even Al, she says. She doesn't want Al to touch it either. Nobody touched Kara's playlist. So got all screwed up. All right, let's get to I want to get to this exchange here between Wolf Blitzer and Nancy Pelosi yesterday. We got a few clips on it. Let's start with the first one and see where it goes. This is going to be cut 10. And here is Wolf Blitzer to Nancy Pelosi, and they kind of got into it because she goes on CNN and she expects, everybody to say she's wonderful and everything is fabulous and Orange Man bad, and ask her, softball questions like, how's her daughter? So instead, like, Blitzer makes the mistake of asking her a legitimate question, and all hell breaks loose. Let's start with cut 1.
Get more treatments. Let's hope they get a vaccine. And Madam Speaker, I certainly respect you, but I also respect Ro Khanna. I respect Andrew Yang. I respect members of the Democrats who are members of the problem solvers. They want a deal because so many people right now
well,
are
the problem
suffering.
solvers, by the way, don't have any earned income tax credit or child tax credit in their proposal either. But let's not go into that.
Yeah,
you evidently do not respect the chairman of the committies who wrote these bills.
I respect
and
all of you.
I wish you would respect the knowledge that goes into getting meeting the needs of the American people. But again, you've been on a jag defending the administration all this time with no knowledge of the difference between our two bills. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to say that to you in person.
Right. Madam Speaker, these are incredibly difficult times right now, and we'll leave it on that note. Thank you so much for joining
we'll
us.
Leave it on the vote that you are not right on this, Wolf, and I hate to say that to you. But I feel confident about it, and I feel confident about my colleagues, and I feel confidence in my chairs.
And it's not about me. It's about millions of Americans who can't put food on the table, who can't pay the rent.
And we represent them. And we represent them.
Getting
and
by
we represent
these
them.
long food
and
lines
we represent
that we're seeing.
them.
I know
we
you
know
are.
them.
I'm just saying.
We represent them and we know them.
As we say.
We know them. We represent them.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, as they say.
It is nowhere near perfect.
Madam Speaker.
Always the case, but we're not even close to the good.
All right, let's see what happens, because every day is critically, critically important. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for your sensitivity to our constituents' needs.
I am.
Wow. What a meltdown. Does this sound like somebody who's winning? I'm going to say it like I said yesterday about James Carville. Does this sound like somebody who is winning? I mean, the woman lost it on CNN because they dared to ask her a question. I mean, Wolf Blitzer dared to say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Just get a clean bill. Once you win, you can get whatever you want. You're going to control everything. Biden will sign it. Half dead anyway. He'll sign it. Just let's get the PPP out. But as Ben Klein said, she doesn't want a deal because she doesn't want to help those very people who she's saying are her constituents, because that's going to help Trump. So that's why they're not having the deal. And Ben Klein nailed it today. Ben Klein absolutely hit a home run. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good with this bill for CARES for $1,200 a person making under $75,000, and for another round of PPP to keep our jobs, and for the other things, the unemployment in there. Don't do anything to help them, because in the end, that might help Trump. So it's all about power. Blitzer called her on it. Yang called her on it. Other Democrats have called her on it, and she melts down. Ask yourself, does that sound like the rant of somebody winning with 20 days to go? I don't think so. If you're winning with 20 days to go, you're doing the exact opposite. Now, let's get here to the third cut of cut 10, or maybe this is cut 10, 11, 12, but so I don't know how you have these, Kara. It's either cut 3 of 10 or cut 12. But here's Pelosi. What you have here. Here is, yes, I want 1, 2, and 3. Here is Pelosi. When you have it, I want to get to that third cut that you have that you gave me. Here is Pelosi and Wolf Blitzer getting into it again, telling Blitzer, I don't know why you're always an apologist for the position of the Republicans. Excuse me? When is Wolf Blitzer an apologist for the Republicans? Like, Never. All right, tell me when you have that. In fact, I'm going to play all three of them because they're really that great. Meantime, Barry says, John, panic from Nancy. She's not used to her water carriers pushing back. Barry in Weir's Cave. Exactly. She's not accustomed to that. They go on CNN and they expect, Cuomo and Don Lemon to say how wonderful they are and how bad and orange man bad. Instead, Blitzer asks, he actually asked her a question. Like, I'm proud of the guy. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Pass the bill. You've got people on your side saying pass it. And she's like, well, they're not committee chairs. They don't know anything. Really? They're people in your own caucus are telling you to pass this. And take Trump's deal of $1.3 trillion. All right, let's get to the third cut here, where she calls Blitzer, of all people, a Republican apologist.
From their homes, they can't pay the rent. Many Americans are waiting in food lines for the first time in their lives. Can you look them in the eye, Madam Speaker, and explain why you don't want to accept the president's latest stimulus offer?
Well, because, thank you very much, Wolf, and I hope you'll ask the same question of the Republicans about why they don't really want to meet the needs of the American people. But let me say to those people, because all of my colleagues, we represent these people. I have for over 30 years represented my constituents. I know what their needs are. I listen to them, and their needs are not addressed in the president's proposal. So when you say to me, why don't you accept theirs? Why don't they accept ours? Our legislation is there to do three things primarily: to honor our workers, honor our heroes, our healthcare workers, our police and fire first responders, our teachers, our transportation, sanitation, food workers, the people who make our lives work. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without them. Many of them have risked their lives so that to save lives, and now they will lose their jobs because Mitch McConnell says let the states go bankrupt.
Excuse me for interrupting,
let the states go bankrupt.
Madam Speaker, but they really need the money right now, and even members of your own.
I understand that,
but even members of your own caucus. Even members of your own caucus, Madam Speaker, want to accept this deal. $1.8 trillion. Congressman Ro Khanna, for example. But let me just quote Ro Khanna, a man you know well. I assume you admire him. He's a Democrat. And he just said this. He said, people in need can't wait until February. $1.8 trillion is significant and more than twice the Obama stimulus. Make a deal. Put the ball in McConnell court. So what do you say to Ro Khanna?
What I say to you is, I don't know why you're always an apologist, and many of your colleagues apologists for the Republican position. Ro Khanna, that's nice. That isn't what we're going to do, and nobody's waiting till February. I want this very much now, because people need help now. But it's no use giving them a false thing just because the president wants to put a check with his name on it in the mail, that we should not be doing all we can to help people pay the rent, put food on the table, to enhance benefits, that they don't lose their jobs if they're state and local, we're talking about the consequences of a pandemic, the symptoms of a problem that the president refuses to address.
But you know,
and that is
the
coronavirus.
We know
that is
we
the
know
coronavirus.
The problem out there, but there are millions of Americans who have lost their jobs. They can't pay the rent. Their kids need the food.
That's right, and that's what we're trying to get done.
I'm going to ask you again. Does that sound like an exchange with Wolf Blitzer by somebody running a winning campaign? Let's go to the third one. Some of it's redundant, but I could not believe this exchange. So let's get to the third one here, and then we'll get your calls.
Stimulus, go big or go home. He wants even more right now. So why not work out a deal with him, and don't let the perfect, as they say here in Washington, be the enemy of the good.
Well, I will not let the wrong be the enemy of the right.
What's wrong with $1.8 trillion?
Well, you know what? Do you have any idea what the difference is between the spending that they have in their bill and that we have in our bill? Do you realize that they have come back and said all these things for child tax credits and earned income tax credits, for helping people who have lost their jobs, are eliminated in their bill? Do you realize they pay no respect to the fact that child care is very important for people whose children cannot go to school because they're doing remote learning, and yet they minimize the need for child care, which is the threshold with which people, mothers and fathers, can go to work if they have that. Do you have any idea of how
that's precisely why, Madam
short
Speaker,
they're concerned?
That's why it's so important right now. Yesterday I spoke to Andrew Yang, who says the same thing. It's not everything you want,
but you know
but there's a lot there.
Honest to God, you really, I can't get over it, because Andrew Yang, he's lovely. Ro Khanna, he's lovely. They are not negotiating this situation. They have no idea of the particulars. They have no idea of what the language is here. I didn't come over here to have, so you're the apologist for the Obama, excuse me. God forbid.
Madam Speaker, I'm not an apologist.
Obama.
I'm asking you serious questions because so many people are in desperate need right now. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
When was the last time...
Let me respond to you.
Let me ask you, when was the last time, Madam Speaker, when was the last time you spoke with the President about this?
I don't speak to the President. Speak with his representative.
Why not call him and say, Mr. President, let's work out a deal. It's not going to be everything you want, not going to be everything I want, but there are so many Americans right now who are in desperate need. Let's make a deal.
What makes me amused, if it weren't so sad, is how you all think that you know more about the suffering of the American people than those of us who are elected by them to represent them at that table. It is unfortunate that we do not have shared values with this White House, and that they have in their bill, why don't you talk about in their bill, a tax break for the wealthiest families in the country, while they cut out the earned income tax credit for the poorest families in our country and the poorest children in our country. That we have to fight with them to get them to address the coronavirus crisis, because they have said it was a hoax, it was magical, it was a miracle, it was going to cure it. It hasn't. And that's why we find ourselves in this situation. I feel very confident about the knowledge that I bring to this, but more importantly, the knowledge that my chairs, our chairs of jurisdiction, science-based, academically documented, institutionally suggested in terms of what the cost would be to do it, and to do it that way. And about, we talk about child care, yes. We talk about safety in the workplace. Safety in the workplace, that's a very important issue, especially in the time of the pandemic. So what I say to those people is, we're going to get a deal. And when we do, it will be retroactive. It will be retroactive.
Here's what you wrote in a letter to House Democrats, Madam Speaker, and I ask these questions only, as you know, so many millions of Americans are suffering right now.
Well, you quote two people who...
Unbelievable. If it goes on, he reads the letter, which she's contradicting herself. This is not the dialogue of somebody confident 20 days out going into this election. They know they have no ground game. They know they have no enthusiasm. They know they have a lot of money from their billionaire donor class that hates America, George Soros and the like. But that, if you listen to that exchange with Wolf Blitzer, she's not on with Hannity. She's not on with Tucker Carlson. She's not on with Laura Ingraham. She's not on with Spicer or the people at Newsmax. She's not on with OAN. She's on with Wolf Blitzer, a left-wing liberal Democrat who dared to ask her a set of legitimate questions and then kept apologizing for the questions. Hey, I'm only asking this because millions of people are suffering. Hey, I'm only asking this because millions of people are suffering. Hey, I'm only asking this because Andrew Yang and Ro Khanna are asking it. Hey, I'm only asking this because, your caucus is mad at you. Hey, I'm only asking this because I have to. I don't want to ask it because I don't want you to get mad at me because you make up my viewership base, but, I'm still, a human being with a brain in my goddamn head. So I'm going to ask him, and she completely melts down 21 days. Now it's 20. This is yesterday. 21 days before the election. And you're going to tell me that that is the behavior and soundbite of a leader of a party that is winning. No, they're losing. And they are petrified of this. And the president was brilliant in pointing this out and saying, look, I am not going to bail out your rich donor friends in their mansions in Hollywood because they want a salt tax reduction. I'm not going to bail out de Blasio and Cuomo and these other liberal left-wing mayors and governors who have run their state into the ditch. We're not going to let somebody in Montana bail you out who's doing the right thing. We're simply not going to do it. Here's $1.8 trillion. Wolf Blitzer should get a gold star for this. Here's $1.8 trillion. It's a lot of money. It's not everything you want. It's not everything we want. But it's $1.8 trillion on the heels of 2 other packages. And she won't do it like Ben Klein said. She won't do it because she doesn't want to do it before the election. And then she tipped her hand. She said, well, we'll make it retroactive. So basically what she's saying, hey, just get through this. Just get through November 3rd. Get to February. When I got all the power, I'm going to give you more money, and I'm going to make it retroactive. You just got to get through it. Because she said, even though you're suffering now and you're eating out of a dumpster, you know what? Suck it up because I want power. And then I'll toss you a crumb. Let them eat cake, says Madam Speaker. John Fredericks Radio Network. Stephen K. Bannon is next. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be in Greenville, North Carolina, for the President's Rally, East Carolina University, in that area. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.